Emma, you mentioned this throughout the year. Change is really, really difficult. Small amounts, big amounts in an enterprise. What do we need to do to get organizations' minds, as Olivier was mentioning there, to move to this new way of thinking and enabling and empowering and using tools at every single level to get them to turn away from what Mike was calling dinosaur organizations that embalm existing processes into something a lot more dynamic, future thinking, and something that involves all of their staff in this wonderful and amazing journey in industry?
So thank you for the question. I'm always excited to talk about change management. And I also love that I get to do it in this Christmas sweater. So I won't be angry at you for that. From the standpoint of change management, I talk a lot about this. When OG and Ian joined us a couple of months ago and we had a people-centric episode, I talked a ton about kind of the three basic areas of change management that I think every organization, regardless of budget or anything else, you can do to help make your transition and change smooth. And that's starting with making sure that everybody in the organization understands the why behind the moves that you're making. And going back to what you said, you can't win minds unless people understand why. And I think the reason that this is so critical to me is just the way that I see the world and the way that I work. You can ask my boss, Mark, I'll tag him in the comments and he can cooperate. I will not do something unless I understand the logic and the why behind it, because I don't want to just put effort out into the world for no reason or do something that doesn't feel right to me, and understanding the basis of the driver behind a decision. And the same thing is true for a transformation. And if you're not doing a good enough job explaining that why behind the change, people are going to be fearful of what's happening. They're not going to understand that you're trying to make their lives better and improve the way that they do their jobs and hopefully free up time for them to do work that they enjoy. They're going to have a sense of fear that you're trying to replace them or automate their job. And so that why, and helping them eventually bridge that gap to what's in it for me and why are we doing this and how is it going to benefit me as an individual, you're not going to get anywhere with that change. Then the next step is constant communication through an implementation, training, and then post communication as well to celebrate the win. And so that's kind of that third stage. So you need to help people understand why. You need to over communicate throughout the entire journey of your implementation and go live. And then you need to celebrate your successes. And when you do a really great job of celebrating those successes and sharing the value that you've gotten out of an intelligent automation program or, multiple implementations, that idea and excitement behind the why is going to start to build. And that's when you're going to get momentum behind your program. You're going to get new ideas, you're going to have fresh perspectives, and you're going to encourage more and more people to become a part of your innovation strategy moving forward. So I've talked a lot about that in the past, but I think there's a couple of other things I actually just did. And so it's fresh in my mind. Just did an article for the AI Journal about some other things that organizations should keep in mind if they really want to take this idea of successful change management and turn it into a competitive advantage for their organization. And some of those things are understanding that change management itself is a discipline. And there has to be a mindset shift within your organization to look at change management as a discipline. It can't be an afterthought. It can't be something that tags along behind the technology, just as OG was saying. You can't just focus on the technology. The people are the driving force behind everything that you do. And you have to recognize that and build programs that support that idea as well. You also have to make sure that you're doing the right upskilling and reskilling of your team to make sure that they're able to feel comfortable with these changes. Now, going back to our citizen developer conversation before, does everybody in your organization need to be a developer? No. Does everybody in your organization need to understand what you mean when you say AI or when you say machine learning and how that's impacting their job? Yes. You have to educate them, reskill them, and help them understand what's happening around them, or they're not going to support it. So making sure that you have some sort of program put in place where, again, whether that's basic communication and having some lunch and learns to help everybody get comfortable with that idea, or more structured programs like PwC has a citizen innovation program that you can send your teams through, or every software vendor available has countless training options that are, scaled to specific roles from end user to developer. So take advantage of those tools and make sure that you're doing what you can to support the transition to the new way of working for your team. And then the last piece that I think is also really critical, and it goes along with this idea of, I think, communication to a certain extent, but it's communication through your actions as a leader. And you have to lead change by example. So you can't ask your team to change the way that they're working or learn new skills and learn about technology without doing that yourself as well. And so making sure that you are adopting your tools, making sure that you are taking the time to learn the language of, or kind of that digital literacy is one of the things that Vandana, who I included in the article, mentioned, helping make sure that your senior leadership is, for lack of a better term, eating their own dog food too. Because if they're not adopting it and they're not supporting it, why would somebody who's an end user working day in and day out feel the need to do that? And so I think, beyond those kind of simple 3 steps of what's in it for me, communication, and celebrating your wins, you need to recognize that this is a discipline and you need to do some other things to change your approach to change within your organization. And if you can do that, it's going to give you a competitive advantage to continue to build on this innovation and really take advantage of this wave of digital transformation in a different way than other folks might be able to.